Why, hello there, and welcome to essentially what's going to be a recap of the series thus far, or the Sky Factory series. I'm just gonna set up the chest real quick so I can put my print stuff in, just so that nothing's altered between this video and stream. This here. And I can just go. I'm also gonna go shift myself over into creative, just so that this is easier. So, what happened during episode 1 is essentially we built out this platform from the middle. This was a tree originally, and then these were all oak. And then I think before we went down, we built a basic version of this, which was just these two. And then we originally had a water stream here, which went down at this point, and then we had a drop chute here, which got replaced with an elevator later. And then what we did next was essentially come down here, and then we built up the bottom layer, and then this is around when I decided what the build's gonna look like from the interior side. It's essentially a bottle shape of sorts. And then I think run stream 3 we made a cobblestone generator, which was a very basic version of this with just the lava and water here, and a good mine 2 at once, I believe. And then in a later stream we expanded it so that more cobblestone's produced. I think I need to restock it. And then the next thing we worked on, I believe, was the mob farm over in this direction, which is also partially why there's pipes here. But we essentially spent a few streams working on this. I gotta pick that up later. Which is here a 21 drop chute. The walls are currently 21 blocks. However, I plan on putting a floor here at some point. Not sure when I'll actually get around to doing it. And then this is the interior of the mob farm. It's essentially a couple of layers of stone and then into a massive stream, which then drops down. It's set up like this because the building I decided to make was a 25 by 25 or so. Although this is probably going to be changed out as it's not really needed and can be done better by putting it here instead if I ever decide to expand upward. Because right now they currently just get stuck here because of how it's done. Except for the occasional ones that decide to drop. I'm thinking in one of these corners. And then couple of streams after, we decided to make an auto hammer system, which sometimes gets overly full because I haven't took it anywhere yet. Thus forth, there's sand and gravel everywhere currently. And then at some point I also built in a mob drop collection system. And then I think a stream or two later we added sugarcane in here as well. And then I think around stream 8 of the series, I want to say it's stream 8, we started setting up Tinker's Construct, which at the moment is about 3 floors tall. That's concerning, it should not be like that. Maybe it's just that large because of how tall it is and how many different liquids are in there. But it should be a couple blocks taller if it's like that, I presume. And then with this one, I decided to give it a JLS aesthetic for whatever reason, and also make it gear-like because the original mob farm was going to look like a gear-esque shape. I just decided to fill it. Damn it. Why is it always sick? Why is it always that I'm sick when I decide to fucking record? So fun. And then a couple of streams later, we also made an auto dirt system, which weirdly the sift's on. Should not be on though. Either that or that just got left in there. I'm just gonna do that real quick. And then we also started working upward with this. Currently it only goes to those two, as the building over there is not done, or any sort of building over there. And then we did that a couple times until about here. Which at around this layer, we decided to start working on... No, that's after we did this, which is not yet finished, but it's essentially going to be a storage sort of room with ideally some sort of glass pillar here that goes upward, and then we'll probably have another layer of the mob farm on top of it. We'll see how big this ends up being. And also get rid of that fella, because he should not be there. And then also before we did the farming stuff, we made a grass area, which we now have sheep and pigs, so that's nice. And then we also took a trip over to the Nether, which has the same effect as the overworld, I found out. And then there's clouds instead of glowstone for whatever reason, and vines. I mainly came here in search of glowstone, but then realized it's all clouds. Thus, leading us over to our next project. Need to go find the side it's on, and that well shouldn't be there either. Which is this. It'll essentially be around 9 of these platforms, all sharing the same crop. And then I'm thinking that each building will have the same crop as well, just so that I can make sure I have an overabundance of them. And then I'm gonna have a dropper system for water to spray down and then break all these. And then I would just run around and pick up the stuff because, as you can see, there is no room for hoppers here. Actually, no, there is, but I don't think I'm gonna have that much iron, and I don't want to dig up this whole thing every time I need to put hopper in. But maybe I'll do that in the future and just have it pick up over here. Or better yet, put in void hoppers above these, which would then have a pipe to connect it to a chest or something. We'll see how that one goes. Also, with some of these, I decided to put in a upward bit just so it's a bit easier. And I believe I did that with the building that's up here too. That's on this floor. That's this side. Yeah. I made it raised, and then you walk up, or you can go through the door. Usually, there's not some slimes here. But yeah, that would essentially be it thus far. If you're wondering what the statistics on slabs used looks like we're currently at around 10,000 stone slabs and around 35,000 oak slabs, which is always fun. And then 27,000 wood planks, which I think is in correlation with the slabs. Although I don't know why it's labeled as a hat stand. That's weird. But yeah. That would essentially be the whole thing recapped. I'm not gonna bother editing this as it's not really needed. I just figured I'd give a recap of what was happening for viewers that wanted to watch the series and did not want to go and watch like 80 plus hours of content because there's 20 parts thus far. But yeah, I'll see you guys in the stream if I stream later.